Breville Group has been one of the best performers on the ASX in the past decade, with its share price rocketing from $5 in 2016 to $33 now, giving the coffee machine and sandwich maker a remarkable $4.8 billion market cap. And Adir, you told me, let's talk about Breville. I said, oh, they're a tiny little business. Little did I know, 4.8 billion now. So you
well, the question that we're going to answer is, should they be worth $4 billion plus dollars?
We'll get to that. Breville shares have almost doubled in price since June on the back of solid but largely unexceptional financial results. For the 2024 financial year, revenue grew by 3.5%, which is actually less than inflation, while the company was able to increase margins. GP and EBIT grew by 8%, which is impressive. The business now has a majority of customers in the US, with Americas making up more than half of the company's sales. Adir, if you go back 5 years, what do you reckon the company's sales were to the US?
Dollars or percentage?
Percentage.
30%.
I think it was 20%. So it's significantly grown its US business. It's got a US CEO, obviously. I'll talk about in a second. Its American business grew 3%. Its EMEA business grew 9%, while APAC actually dropped 6.4%, which is so its Australian business actually considerably. If you add inflation, that's sort of 10%.
So we should start by saying, what the hell do they sell? Because I think that's the first misleading bit. And the way I would divide up what they sell really simply is coffee machines and other appliances. One of the biggest, I guess, shifts, and one of the most remarkable things about this business is that like a tiny percentage of their overall sales are other people's stuff. This is a business that is almost entirely what I call an owned brand business, where they have high R&D costs, which effectively
it's an OEM essentially, right?
Yeah, designing their own stuff. No, not OEM, branded their own brands, and that's what they're selling. And like almost all of their sales is stuff.
How is it not OEM? Isn't it the same as Apple?
An OEM is an OEM not a business? Is it a business that puts its own
manufacturer?
Yeah, but I thought like an OEM also could include businesses that make the hardware for other companies to put their brands on. Whereas like this is an OEM, it's a subsegment of OEM that puts their own brands on stuff.
I think it's when it's your own, like a non-OEM is when you've got like a fake Apple charger, like a Belkin charger, for example. That's not OEM because it's not an Apple charger. Whereas OEM is the Apple device that it's got its own brand on.
Yeah, and so like if you look at this business, almost all of its sales are stuff that it has designed and it makes and it puts its brands on. And the difference between that and selling other people's stuff is like a 37% gross margin versus a 27% gross margin selling other people's stuff. So that's actually not as big of a difference that I would have expected. But one of the challenges that keeps their gross margin to 37% on even the stuff that they make themselves is that they're often selling through third parties, right? And so what they're getting is a whole...
Would they have a D2C
They
business?
do have a D2C business. They say it's growing. They don't break out the size of it.
I would have thought it's pretty small. Like I wouldn't think to buy Breville stuff from anywhere else but a third party.
Yeah, and so I think if they sell it directly, they're probably getting 70% margins or 65% margins, whereas when they sell it through third parties, they're getting about half that as a margin. So that's what they sell. And I would say it's kind of a tale of two stories, which is the coffee business is going through the roof and the other appliances business is not as good, is how I read their investor presentation. So I think the way that I would look at the growth of Breville is it is a, like, because, you know, their machines are actually really good machines now. And so I would read this as a business that has been moving up market, that is having a lot of success selling coffee machines into the US and EMEA, is how I would read this business as in terms of what it does.
Very fair. And I think, look, it's been really well led by American CEO, a guy called Jim Clayton, came in 2015, and it's gone from $760 million in 2019 to $1.5 billion now. And you would have thought, oh, maybe during COVID it's going to skyrocket because everybody's at home, their coffee machines. But it actually kept growing since COVID, which is super strange. Well, one thing that we should note is...
So can we talk about the CEO for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Since you've raised it. Breville, interestingly, has one of the most comprehensive remuneration reports of any company of its size that I've ever seen. And one of the things they include, I mean, they usually, include all the usual stuff like how much people get paid, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things that they include in the remuneration, and this CEO gets paid $5.5 to $6 million a year, Australian dollars all in.
Well paid, yeah.
Which is a well-paid CEO. But one of the things they've included in here is how much value has been created in his 9-year tenure, because he's been in there for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I guess this is an effort to get ahead of, any kind of proxy stuff or investor stuff where they might ask questions about, why he gets $5.5 to $6 million a year. And so, you know what a 4E is? A 4E is basically the name of the ASIC document. It's an annual report. And the Breville 4E, when you look at it, so it's not the annual report, it's just...
It was in Australia, not the US, sorry.
Yeah, in Australia, the 4E is like the annual return, right? It's not the annual report. And so the Breville one, I think it takes until page 68 or 69 to get to their financial numbers because of all of the stuff that comes before, including a pretty massive remuneration report. But so he joined in 2015, FY15, and so they've got 3 metrics and the movement. So revenue has gone from $500 million, I'm rounding, to $1.5 billion in the 9 years that he's been involved. EBIT has gone from 70 mil to 186 mil, and the market cap has gone from 800 mil to almost 4 bill in June 2024 when this came out. So, which is a close to 400% increase. So clearly they're creating their story here that the guy's name's Jim Clayton. Since he joined as CEO, there's been this huge, almost, probably on a market cap basis, transformation of the business from a sub $1 billion business to a $4 billion plus business. And
Can I just a quick point there? And this guy's clearly done an incredible job, so I don't want to be critical of what's happened. But in terms of the sort of justification, one thing that you really need to asterisk is revenue's been an amazing story, profit's been a very good story, earnings per share has been a good story.
Oh, well, that's the key, right? EPS, earnings per share, because the market cap doesn't matter if they've issued a ton of shares.
Exactly. So it's been a good story, but not as good as the other stuff. And that's the reason they did a very discounted cap raise during COVID. I think like everybody else probably freaked out. So if you look at the EPS, I'm going from 2019, so not all the way back, but from 2019, it's gone from 50 to 83 cents per share. So it's definitely increased. That's a decent story, but is it as good as potentially the book cover indicates? I'd say it definitely is not. And it's because of that.
I think that's why the EPS graph was missing from those 3 graphs, right, in the remuneration. And so, I think anyone who invested in this business when he joined would be very happy with the results. And I don't think $5.5 to $6 million is unreasonable pay. 2 mil of that is like performance rights, essentially. I think the rest is probably cash. So, and I think his base is, so I don't know, somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million. So, like, I know these are big numbers, but
it's definitely I think it's too high.
I think it's too high. I don't think it's too
high. On the
high.
EPS, on the ace of EPS, like, he's clearly a very good CEO, but it does feel like this is sort of getting to bank CEO territory. Like, and you can argue, well, simply because it's a bigger business, but banks are 25x the size of this business getting paid the same. So there is an argument that simply because the business is big, it shouldn't pay someone more. But then on that basis, why is this guy getting $6 million, not $1 million?